Welcome back, guys, to the next episode. Most of us say that we want the next level. That next level might be a stronger marriage, could be deeper faith, better health, maybe a bigger purpose. We want business, the leadership, the influence, maybe it's legacy. But the question most men don't want to answer is, do you want the responsibility that comes with it? Because every next level comes with a new level of pressure. And if we pray for it to not be hard, sometimes what we're really saying is, God, I want the outcome, but I don't want the formation. I don't want all the stuff that goes along with it. And that next level is not just about what it is that you get, but it's who you become. And that's what we're going to dive into today. The next level always looks glamorous from the outside, right? It could be that promotion. We notice executives or general managers or vice presidents or entrepreneurs, and that promotion looks really good on the outside. That stronger family looks really good on the Instagram photos. That deeper marriage, when you see people talk and have like that best friend as a partner, looks really good. Maybe it's that bigger platform. You notice people on social media and the fact that they've got, hundreds of comments and thousands of likes looks really good. That opportunity maybe to lead or the answered prayer looks really good when somebody says, man, I've been praying for this and all of a sudden it came true. It always looks good on the outside. But what we don't necessarily see is the weight that comes along with it. That stronger marriage often requires more humility. A growing family often requires more sacrifice. That higher leadership role requires more emotional discipline, heavier burden to carry. A bigger calling can often come from more surrender. A greater purpose often comes with greater capacity to carry that pressure. So too many men want that elevator to that next level, but they have not built the legs to take the stairs. And when the elevator drops them into any room, right, whatever the level is, and they haven't been trained for, they call it unfair, overwhelming, or impossible. But sometimes it's not just unfair. Sometimes we are simply underdeveloped for the things that we asked for. And that clarity of recognizing that can give us a path. Okay. So pressure does not necessarily mean that you're failing. I know oftentimes it does, and I'll share some stories here as we get into it. One of the most scary things a guy can do is to take that pressure and misinterpret that as, I'm not doing enough. Pressure shows up and we say, I must not be strong enough. I've made a wrong decision somewhere along the way and now I'm paying for it. God must not be in this one. He's not helping me here. I guess I'm not built for it. Maybe this is too much. Whatever it is, the confirmation bias starts to take over. You fail once and your mind says, see, told you, you ain't meant for this level. Other people are, just not you. You get tired and your mind says, see, you can't handle this. If those voices sound familiar, it's because it's they happen in everybody. You break down and your mind might say, see, you're not the man I thought you were. But that's not always the truth. See, sometimes pressure is not evidence that you are disqualified. Sometimes that pressure is evidence that you are being developed. A seed has to break before it grows. A muscle has to tear before it strengthens. And a man has to be stretched before he can expand. So the question is not, why is this hard? A different, more empowering question is, what is this pressure trying to produce in me? See, we always love diamonds, right? When we go and talk about getting married and like the whole big thing is, get a diamond and biggest diamond is going to be the biggest, it's more expensive, but it's going to mean more. It's going to be so pretty and blah, blah, blah. But when you look at how diamonds are actually made, they're carbon, but under an immense amount of pressure until it actually becomes something beautiful. And so it's a perfect analogy because we see all of the beautifulness of a diamond, right? We see our buddies with his wife, and she has a big diamond on her hand. but we don't necessarily look at the pressure that it took to physically make the diamond, nor the sacrifice or all the things that the guy had to go through in order to afford that diamond. Okay. And I want to take a little bit of time here to talk about, rejecting that call is still a decision. See, there's a moment in every man's life, and sometimes it happens multiple times, where he feels the call forward. Might be to repair the marriage, might be to lead the family through a tough time, might be to just lean in and have a hard conversation. Maybe it's forgiving that person, starting that business, getting healthy, becoming disciplined, stopping the hiding and stepping into purpose. And the temptation is to say, not now. Not because we don't care, but because it feels heavy. The problem is that refusing the call does not leave us neutral. Rejecting the call is still a decision. It's a decision to stay the same. It is a decision to let fear lead you. It is a decision to hand the future version of yourself a weaker foundation. And so, we talked about this in the last podcast episode, where maybe it was a couple back, I can't remember. But are you serving your today self, or you're serving your future self? If you're handing your future self a weaker foundation because you didn't take action today, then your future self is going to suffer. And you're going to go back to this time and say, man, I really wish I would have made a different decision. Another decision is to make your wife, your children, your family, your friends, or your future depend on a version of you that never got trained. And that is scary, because oftentimes whenever we are put into situations where we're not really ready to feel like we're going to perform, like we feel like undertrained, that's when anger, that's when frustration, that's when we snap, we break it, because we're at our breaking point. And then we say things that we don't mean. We do things that we know aren't the right thing to do. And we realize that that fire needed to be carried. The fire itself does not carry itself. Someone carried it to you. Now the question is whether or not you're going to carry that forward. And that fire, what I'm talking about, is that purpose, is that whatever it is for you, that next version of yourself that you're trying to chase, in whatever dimension of life that means for you, whether it's physical relationships, whether it's emotional, whether it's the promotion at work, maybe it's more money, health, wealth, happiness, purpose, fulfillment, you name it. One thing that comes up for me right now is, you guys know how when you go to the grocery store, or whether you go to the airport and they have those automatic doors there, the door doesn't open when you're standing far away from it, analyzing it, right? It opens when you move towards it. Now, right, the geek in me is like, well, yeah, there's a sensor right there that as you approach, the door opens. But what I found is that's also how life works. Men want the door to open well before they move, when they're still however many, yards back. But the door only opens through movement, through keep showing up. That might be keep praying. That might be keep leading. That might be keep apologizing, building, or training, serving, whatever that might take for you. But you got to keep taking your lickings so that you can keep on ticking. I think that was TD Jakes, I think, that had said that really stuck with me. Keep taking your lickings and keep on ticking. But then one day something opens. Not because it was easy, but because you refuse to stop moving. So, a little bit of secret time. This season has probably been one of the hardest, heaviest seasons of my life. Not in one clean, simple category that I can point to, but really in all directions. We've gone through, I've shared with many of you, I've shared it here even on the podcast about the whole IVF journey. And, we've gone month through month of hope, waiting, prayer, appointments, emotional swings, quiet grief that comes with it at the very end, when the answer is not what you're hoping for. IVF is not for the faint of heart. I have a very new appreciation for anybody that says that they've gone through IVF, especially when they say that they've gone through it multiple times, because it's it's a physical journey. It's emotional. It takes something from you because it's just a ton of doctor's appointments. It's a ton of injections. It's a ton of heaviness on the girl. And then that heaviness kind of then pours back onto the guy, right? To be able to manage everything, to keep being that light, that positivity, that source of positivity to keep the family moving forward. So there's also been a whole bunch of family weight, including aging grandparent, and the reality that life is moving faster than what you want it to. There's been friends walking through very intense and heavy situations and, trying to be present for them and trying to make sure that they are feeling seen and heard because that's what they need. They need to know that it's going to be okay. Because everything is. It's just when we're in it, we don't necessarily see it all the times. Okay. Whether it's a new role at GE, new responsibilities, new pressures, new need to show up and not let everything else slip. So there's been this weight of trying to do it all, whether it's a husband, father, provider, friend, leader, man of faith, all the things, right? Every dimension of life. And sometimes it you carry it so long and you don't even realize how heavy it becomes. And then somebody sees you. And so for me, this happened this past week, actually. For me, it actually happened at church. One of the guys, uh, him and I connected. I can't remember. It maybe like 6 months ish ago or whatever. But super cool dude, and we're cut from the same cloth. We kind of look at things through very systematic type lens, covering all bases, covering all aspects of the base or whatever. And this Sunday, he walk in, and he asked, hey, has life slowed down for you? And I said, no. I said, if anything, I said it's just speeding up. And he could tell something was off, and he said, yeah. I said, you're burning red hot, man. He said, I can tell. And I looked at kind of curious because usually I don't even really think about it. I just continue to just keep on going, right? Show up and serve, show up and serve, show up and serve. And he said last week when we were talking and you said, man, life is just going so fast. Sometimes I just wish I could slow it down. He's like, that was your warning sign. He's like, you may not have known it yet, but you're burning red hot. And I gave him a kind of a look again, and he said, I can tell because your eyes usually are smiling. And he's like, right now they're not smiling. And I'm getting goosebumps again. But in that moment, it was like, wow, those just a couple key words almost broke me. Not because he really said anything profound, but because it was like he saw something that I've been trying to hide from myself and hide from everybody else. It's like I felt seen. And we've been carrying that pressure quietly. Being seen can kind of crack that armor. And I had to fight back the tears, in church service and the picnic and everything else afterwards. But in that moment, I was reminded that the pressure was not pointless. It was forming me. It was stretching me to become that next version of myself, the kind of man who can carry more love, more responsibility, more faith, more leadership, and more purpose. Not because I'm strong every second, but because God is using that pressure to build capacity. And it's something that it doesn't. I can only reflect on this now, but in the past couple weeks has always been. I didn't really want to even really talk about it or to get into it because I didn't even know necessarily how to jump into it. But recognizing that I just kept pushing it, kept pushing it, kept pushing. And to me, I just kept pushing because failure wasn't an option. I needed to be there for, Amber. I needed to be there for Lily. I needed to be there for my friends and my family and everybody that was counting on me. And I feel like that's a position that many guys can resonate. And that might be something that you might be resonating with right now. And I share this because I want you to know that you're not alone if you might be going through a similar season in your life. And we can take helpful hints along the way. So after my buddy had told me that, and I started to really sit on that and really reflect on it. And I realized that there were things that I was doing that I was not filling my own cup up. And so this often happens to guys when they try to go out there and they try to be a lot of things for a lot of people is they fill everybody else's cup, but they won't fill up their cup first. And so it's just like when you fly on a plane, right? They tell you put on your oxygen mask first, then put on other people's oxygen masks. And that's an important thing, right? We every time we fly, everybody can tell you that. But when you get into real life and you start experiencing life where you're putting everybody else's oxygen mask on without putting yours on, you start to feel that pressure. You start to feel that wooziness, that lightheadedness, because you might pass out because you're just turning and burning so much. And so it's in that moment, every level that brings the new stress, the new pressure, the new overwhelm, it it's almost like it has to be created by it has to be craftfully created, because every single step that you take that has that additional pressure, that takes on that extra load, it also builds the capacity, because then it starts to allow you to be able to make decisions when the stakes are higher. It allows you to do and be more efficient in all things that you do in life, where the things that maybe you have spent way too much time on making a decision, and now you don't have the luxury of time to make the decision. So you just have to make it. You can't research mode everything. You have to start making the decisions to move forward in life. And there's a balance point that I've realized at each of the levels, right? Which is every time that there's a new anything, and this doesn't have to be just one dimension of growth. This is every dimension of growth, whether it's going from single to being married to just even finding new levels of intimacy within your relationship. Every single one requires something different, but every single time there's this step that is achieved, there's also an opportunity to reassess and balance everything. And so that balance point was when I was reminded, hey, this is heavy. Recognize that this is heavy. What are you going to do with the heaviness? Are you going to shy away from it and say, I don't want it anymore? Right? I want to go back to the way the comfortable life was, or am I going to figure out ways of growing and being able to adapt? That whole man of class, right? A is for adaptability. So, every level that you take, you've got to become adaptable to that situation. You have to be able to figure out how do you need to show up in all ways. Okay. And the endurance, this is the endurance and how long you can go is not about necessarily you. Your wife is watching, your children are watching, your friends are watching. The younger men that are behind you, looking up to you, are watching. The older men that have poured into you over the years, though they are also watching. The people God have assigned in your life are watching. And that does not mean that you fake strength. It means that you model faithful endurance. And so there's a difference, right? Fake strength says, I'm fine. Everything's great, even though you're dying inside. But the endurance is, this is heavy, but I'm just not going to quit. The fake side of it, the fake, I'd say, the fake strength tries to hide, but the endurance, the faithful endurance, reaches out. It reaches for the wise people. It reaches for folks to be able to tell you the truth. It allows you to be able to keep taking those next steps. And ultimately, this is how you carry that fire forward, because life is going to get heavy. I'm sure you've experienced a ton of heaviness, moments and seasons, and maybe you're in a season right now of heaviness. And you keep telling yourself, you just got to go do one more day. Just keep moving forward. One more step, one more step. And you don't want to shy away from it, because this is the thing that you've been praying on. This is the thing that you've been wanting the most in your life. But you also know that it's taking its toll. It's taking its tax. It's requiring a new version of you. And so what I want to get into in the next piece of this episode is some practical steps, like some actionable, when we talk about carry that fire forward, right? Carry it and take that next step, another step to wherever it is that you're trying to get to. What does that look like? How do you actually necessarily work your way through all that? Because it is important that you do figure that out and have almost like a map that can get you there, because otherwise you can burn up. It's just like being on the hairy edge, right? You can hit, if a motor goes all the way to red line and isn't well balanced, that's going to be the point where you notice that it's not balanced, because it'll just destroy itself. To be sure, sheer red line motor is just spinning as fast as it can, and if the oil isn't getting to all the components, if the crankshaft or the pistons aren't perfectly balanced, or if the harmonic balancer isn't on there right, like all that stuff can cause the whole motor to just destroy itself. And I've seen a lot of guys get to that point, and it tests them, and it tests that next level. But then I've seen a lot of guys come back from it. I've seen some guys just completely burn out and fall right into addictions and bad habits and things that ultimately destroys them and the success that they're looking to get in life. But I've also seen guys reach out to other guys and find out tips and tricks and ways to manage, and different mindsets and different ways to be able to operate at those higher levels. And it's really interesting is, before we get into the actionable steps, one of the things I wanted to highlight is it's interesting, even if I just look at career trajectory or progression or whatever. When I noticed what I thought was a big deal when I first started, like let's just pick on GE for a second. When I first started and was designing components, and what I thought was the end of the world because the stress model didn't close or because I couldn't meet a certain requirement, like that was a big deal. I was just like super stressed. Like, how am I going to get this to work? I don't know how I'm going to do it. But I got to figure this thing out. I have to get this thing done because there's people that are relying on me. And then as I grew and became module owner, and then I grew and became a systems person, and then I started looking at the whole fleet, and then I started looking at the statistics of the fleet, and then looking at, all the different aspects, I realized that although that was very important, there was no way that if I go back to that previous version of myself, the guy that only had, 4 or 5 years in the company, that I'd be able to handle giving a customer presentation on a topic that I'm not very familiar with, but I'm the one that has to give that message. I don't know that person would have been able to handle talking to a vice president of the company about, hey, this thing just didn't go right, but here's what we're going to go do to abate it. I don't know that same person would be able to handle going and flying around on the other side of the world to be able to deliver bad news to a customer that we're going to have to go change the way that we do things in order to go, deliver better service to them. I don't know that earlier version would have been able to handle all of those things. And I'm not even close to being at the level where obviously you can imagine even more responsibility and more pressure. But what it does remind me of is that there are levels. Because before I used to think like, yeah, sure. There's, every level there's another devil. And like, I've always heard those things. But when I actually go back to different points in my life, and I used to think when I was single, trying to make accommodations for somebody that was, that I cared for, like dating. I couldn't fathom to not go and do all the things that I wanted to go do because we were going to go do things that she wanted to go do. I didn't think that was possible. And I would say possible, like I was that conceited, but just, I don't know that I knew how to go balance that. I didn't know that I knew how to handle when somebody got angry at you for doing something. And just even the intimacy things, like, are you, I didn't know that I would be able to have the conversations with my wife back then. Like, there's a reason why the relationship, every single step, it takes those next steps. You first see each other, and then like for Amber and I, it was like long distance. So we would do long distance, and then it was like we'd only see each other on the weekends, and then it was okay. Well, now we're going to start doing meal prep together so that we can help each other throughout. And it, we just kind of kept going. And then it was like, okay, then we got to like the financial, like, okay, well, how much money or debt do both of us have? And like, okay, the next step and the next step and the next step. And then it's like, well, what do we want to do with kids? And well, the dog, the dog didn't make it. And like every single hard step that went there, you can only have because of the necessary steps that you've taken along the way, because every single level creates that opportunity for you to grow into that next version of yourself, one that has more patience, one that has better articulation on trying to get your point across, the ability to handle and be able to deliver calm messages while you're feeling crushed with pressure. Every single one of those is a lesson, and we only learn that by on the job training, right? You can't read about this stuff in a textbook. A lot of times you're just living that in the real world experience because that is forming you, into the next version of yourself. Okay. So with that, let's transition to the actionable steps. So the first step is just name the weight. Most guys are very vague about what is crushing them. And for me, like, this is real. This is right off the cusp um, of kind of having some of this pressure kind of build up. I had said before, I was like, well, okay, I'm stressed or I'm tired and there's a lot going on. I'm overwhelmed. And that may not be necessarily specific enough to lead yourself. What exactly is heavy right now? Is it the marriage? Is it money? Is it work? Is it too much? Is it health? Is there something that's going on there? Is there, something going on with the parents? Is there something, parents up, right? Like your parents, or is it parenting down, like parenting down to your kids? Is it something in faith that you're struggling with? Aging parents, friendship, like whatever that thing is, but you can't carry what you refuse to name. Kind of like before we said you can't go grow in the area that you can't identify. Kind of a similar thing. So naming that weight gives you the authority to be able to have over it. Then the next step is that you have to separate out the pressure from your identity. See, pressure says this is hard. Then shame, right, immediately just comes in, level one, right? Shame comes in and says, I am weak because this is hard. Well, those two aren't necessarily the same. We have to learn to say, this is heavy, but I'm not disqualified. This is hard, but I'm still feeling called. I am tired, but I'm not necessarily done. I may have messed up today, but I'm not a failure. I might need help, but I am not helpless. And so recognizing and being that and separating out the things that are happening to you versus that identity allows you to not let that temporary pressure become permanent identity. See, I've seen and I've experienced this too, where something hard has happened in life. I know when I was a young kid and math just I struggled because I just couldn't quite get whatever it was. I think it was like algebra or something like that. So the teacher wanted to hold me back. And I remember back in that time, I was like, oh my gosh, like being held back, like I must not be smart. And I immediately went to, instead of this is hard and I just haven't figured it out yet, I immediately was like, well, I'm just the dumb kid in the class. Like I'm just always going to be behind. And I just let that set my identity for the longest time. And it wasn't until somebody clued me into the fact that they're like, hey, just because you experience something does not mean that that's your identity. Just like if you experienced losing all your money, it doesn't mean that you're poor. Poor is only when you allow yourself to stay in there and that you're not able to go pull yourself back out. There's people that go from poor to rich every single day. There's people that go from rich to poor every single day. And so that means that because all these phenomena can happen, that it's not just, there is a mutual exclusivity that happens, meaning what happens and your identity are mutually exclusive. They don't have to be the same. They can be the same, but they don't have to be. So don't let those temporary pressures become that permanent identity. Then the next step 3. So what did we talk about? We said number 1 was name the weight. Okay, what is it specifically? Get crystal clear on the thing that's hurting. And here's a trick too. Is you can take this from like the lean days. Is do the 5 whys. For me, when I was when I was struggling with everything, I was like, okay, well, why is everything overwhelming? And it's like, well, every single dimension of my life right now, there's change happening. Okay, well, why is change overwhelming for me? Well, because I don't have any consistency. Well, why don't I have any consistency? Because I'm always firefighting all the other problems that are going out there. Okay, so if my problem is really that I haven't balanced all the change and all the newness, which is exciting and can be exciting, but can also lead to burnout, and I'm not having any consistency, then that means in order to rectify my problem, the thing that's stressing me out the most is that I have to add a little bit more discipline, not in the I just have to go do things, but discipline in the I need to have a little bit of consistency. Maybe the consistency is a better word. I have to have a little bit more consistency because right now there's so much inconsistency in my life that's the reason why I'm out of balance. And I feel powerless and out of control because there's so much that's happening, right? And so working your way down that layer of like, well, why is this? Well, why is this? Well, why is this? And trying to get down to root cause can help because you'll start with just I'm just overwhelmed. I just don't know how to necessarily talk about whatever it is that is bothering me, and that's true for a lot of guys. There's an old cowboy that I remember seeing on social media, and he talked about guys are wrestling with a lot more demons that you can't even fathom. Um, and he's just being tortured because he's got all these emotions, but he doesn't know how to talk about them, and he's just struggling, and he doesn't want to talk about it because he can't. He can't articulate what it is that's really bothering him, and then he also realizes when he talks about it that then he'll either feel like he's letting people down, or that he's not in control of his life, or that he doesn't really know what to go do, and he certainly doesn't want to say that because then will people lose faith in him, and it's so true. It is so, so true. Except when you can find the right guys in your life, the right support system, which is also another important piece. And I know we've talked about this before in the podcast, but sometimes for me, sometimes I need to hear the same message like 20 times. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, okay, that's what was meant for me. So maybe you're hearing this message for the multiple times, and maybe now is the right time that you go, you know what? It's time to go find the right guys in my life. It is time to start to build a better network because I'm hitting these new levels and I'm super stressed out or overwhelmed and I don't know what the next steps are, and I got to do something. Something's got to change. Get around and have those supportive guys, just like that guy at church that was able to bring me back and to just say, "Hey, don't know if you know this, but I see this in you." And most people didn't even really think twice about it, right? But it's only the ones that can really see you, that can really know who you are, but that also wants you to win. Homeboy wasn't telling me that my eyes weren't smiling because he was trying to make fun of me. He knows how important and how impactful and how I guess nice guy that is that I'm around, that having me around is, which is good. But I wasn't showing up, and I was letting life consume me instead of me trying to consume life. And there is a difference. So make sure that you have all those folks around you. Sorry, super super side tangent there. So step 1, name the pressure, right? Name the weight. Do a couple deep dives, couple 5 whys, right, to get you down to where it is that you need to get to clearly articulate it. Tap into friends and network and whoever else in order to get super clear if you can't get there yourself. Step 2, separate out the pressure from the identity. Make sure that you're identifying what the pressure is and not that, hey, this is all who I am. I am the failure. I am the this, right? Step 3, which is ask a formation question. Instead of only asking, how do I get out of this? Ask, what is this developing in me? Is this what patience is looking like? Is this what humility is trying to teach me? Is this discipline? Is this courage? Is this emotional maturity? Is this the opportunity to practice deeper faith? Is this the opportunity to practice better communication? Is this an opportunity to practice more capacity or more discernment, or maybe it's surrender? Whatever you've been praying on, or whatever it is that you feel like is going to be your next level, this might be the training ground. This might be what the training ground looks like. So if God allowed the pressure, then there may be formation happening inside you. Don't waste that lesson by looking for an exit. It reminds me of what Hormozy, sorry, another side tangent. Alex Hormozy was in an interview once, and he said, if you were to develop the perfect proving grounds to develop humans, would you give them everything that's super easy? If they wanted money, would you just give them money? If they wanted a relationship, would you just give them the relationship? Or would you make it, or would you give them lessons that forces them to grow? Would you give them opportunities to, if they wanted patience, would you give them patience, or would you give them opportunities to practice patience in? Well, in order to be patient, that means that things have to kind of be chaotic and overwhelming to practice patience. If you want humility, then there's going to be a lot of times that are going to get tested where you're wrong. And you get to either decide, am I going to humbly say, you know what, I don't know all things and that's okay, but that's why we're all here to learn together? Or are you going to bypass that opportunity and just keep diving into, no, 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 I'm right, I'm right, I'm right. Okay. So really cool. I wanted to share that. All right. Step 4, take the next faithful step. You don't have to overcomplicate it. You don't have to overcomplicate obedience. Most of the time, you already know what the next step is. Maybe it could be apologizing, making that call, going to the appointment, maybe doing that workout that you said you're going to go do. Might be just opening the Bible if you haven't, you wanted to get closer to faith and it's just too busy, right? And that might be the thing. You might be having the conversation, asking for help, uh, making the plan, right? So one of the things for me, right, when I was talking about all the things that were overwhelming, and I realized I was doing a whole bunch of stuff, but I don't know that I was actually moving the ball forward in all the different ongoing projects I've got. Another buddy that I trust immensely had told me, he's like, hey, what we used to do in the military was we used to do 3-month look ahead. He's like, do you have your 3-month look ahead? And I go, I don't. I said, I do weekly, right? Every single week I do like a week ahead, a week ahead. And he's like, that's good. And he's like, and I'm sure that's helped you grow in the ability to handle more things that are going on in your life. He said, but when you have a 3-month look ahead, that allows you to float in all the different things that you're trying to get done, whether it's homestead stuff, whether it's, baby stuff, whether it's church stuff, whether it's man of class stuff, whether it's GE stuff, whether like whatever the dimension of life is, like you can go plot all those things out and say, what are my goals in the next 3 months? And then find time slots in there and give yourself buffers so that you can all make it work. But that way, at the end of 3 months, these were the things that I wanted to go do. And that's how I got it done. So whatever that next faithful step is for you, the door will open as you move closer to it. But you just have to take that next step. Then we go into step 5, the last step, protect the fire. Your fire that we've been talking about is your faith. It's your purpose, it's your love, it's your conviction, and it's your willingness to keep moving forward. If you do not protect it, life will smother it. So protect it with whatever means that's required. It doesn't matter what your faith is, God, universe, source, whatever it is that you believe in. Protect it. Protect it through prayer. Protect it through scripture. Protect it through honest brotherhood. Protect it from sleep. Protect it with, not from. Protect it with sleep, with the health, with the healthy boundaries. Protect it not giving your best energy to do the things that you do not deserve. I'll say that again. Protect it by not giving your best energy to the things that do not deserve it. Said differently, only give your energy the things that deserve it. You got to protect it, and you got to protect it by remembering who you are responsible to and what you are called to carry, because you cannot carry the fire forward if you let every wind blow it out. And it's interesting because when I think about life, and I think we talked about this a couple episodes back where we were talking about people who they don't allow themselves to become bitter. I feel like the people who have become bitter, they have let life blow their fire out. And I don't want that for you. I want you to be able to be that guy that is out there truly making a difference in the world, that is holding themselves to the standard that they believe that is what they want, like what you want to go do. I believe that you were meant for more. I believe that when you're listening to this, and if you've gotten this far, that you are one of those guys that is ready to continue to keep moving through life, to keep taking that next step and to protect that fire. And all I want to do is I want to help arm you with different ways, different mindsets, different approaches so that you can go do that. So you can go take your fire forward and maybe you light somebody else's torch. Maybe you go help another person. And I feel like only through that is that we're going to get to a point where we can have a life and have a world that we're all proud to be in. So carry that fire forward. Not because it's easy, because I know it's not. I know firsthand that it's not. Not because you always feel strong, because I know you won't, because I know I don't all the time. Not because you have every answer. I again, don't feel like you have to. I know I don't. But carry it forward because someone carried it before for you. Carry it forward because your family needs that light. Carry that fire forward because your future needs that warmth. Your future self is required, or your future self is looking forward to the fire to make it to them. Okay. Carry it because your purpose is not found in avoiding that pressure, but in becoming that kind of man who can walk through that pressure with the faith, with the discipline, with the humility, and with that love. Do not reject the call just because it got heavy. The weight may be the very thing that God is using to build the man required for the next level. So take your lickings, keep on ticking, and carry that fire forward. Till next time.